WXDU, Durham.
Hey, my name is Jason. I'm the general manager for WXDU. Today we have on TJ Pura, the assistant coach for Duke's men's tennis, and Brad Engel, a citizen sports reporter.
Thank you,
So,
Jason, and I'm super excited to be on WXU today to talk about Duke men's tennis with TJ. We'll be touching on the previous season, the upcoming season, and also this new recruiting class for the upcoming season. So, jumping right into it, TJ, how did you end up as the assistant coach for the Duke men's tennis team?
Yeah, first off, thanks guys for having me on. Really excited to do this. I got into coaching in a very roller coaster sort of manner. I graduated from Duke in 2017, played pro tennis for about a year afterwards. Never really thought I was going to make it, but really wanted to empty the tank. And serendipitously, when I was training and playing professionally down in Orlando, my roommate was Tommy Paul. Tommy was kind of going through a rough patch when I was kind of on my way out of my professional tennis career, and we were super close, and I really wanted to help him. So I ended up traveling with Tommy on the Challenger Tour for about a year and helped him get from outside the top 400 to into the top 200. You know, he just made tremendous strides mentally, physically, just with his habits. And it was really, really cool to see. And I felt like, cool, like that was my sort of coaching experience. It was never really on my radar in college. Ended up going into investment banking and finance as a path to hopefully get into social impact finance. Had a great career at Jefferies as an investment banker, and then worked for SunPower. Was pretty close with the C-suite there in the finance department, and kind of had like a quarter life crisis at 25, and was like, you know what, my heart's not fully in this, and I was having this intense tug to get back into coaching. So I called up Tommy. He was 50 in the world then. So I ended up working with Tommy again for another 9 months or so. And then my fiance, she's like the best athlete in the family by far. She's a 2-time Olympian, Menlo grad, like you, Brad. And we moved back to North Carolina during COVID. And as soon as I got back to Durham, Ramsey, my head coach and still the current head coach at Duke, was like, hey man, like, would you be interested in volunteering as a coach for the team this year? And I said, yes, absolutely. And like immediately fell in love with college coaching. We had an amazing year. My first year at Duke, we finished, I think, 11 in the country, which was our best finish since my sophomore year. And just the way that coaching kind of works is when you're a volunteer, if you do well, you have potential opportunities to get hired as like a first assistant. So I was hired by Scott Brown, who was coming in to be the head coach at Vanderbilt. We had a great year at Vandy. We made NCAAs for the first time in 5 years, recruited a bunch of studs to the program, and was, again, just really fortunate at the end of that season to get a call back from Ramsey to say, hey, would you like to come back to Duke and be the first assistant coach? So that was last year, and now entering my second year in a row at Duke, and it's actually my first ever season coaching the same team again, which I'm really excited for. So long story, but that's how I got into coaching.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so now I want to get into the previous season. So you guys had a pretty up and down season this past spring. Overall record of 19-9 with a 9-4 record in ACC play, but finished strong in the ACC tournament. So what were some key takeaways from last season that you and the team plan to carry over into the upcoming one?
Yeah. I mean, learned a ton last year. I think we brought in a ton of new talent last year, a ton of new recruits, a lot of whom were through the transfer portal. And I think that was a huge part of our success, was bringing new guys into the program, including also a true freshman, Sahith Jayaraman from the West Coast. But I would say the challenge was like it was so many new pieces at once. It took us a little while to find our footing. And we kind of struggled a lot, especially in early, tight matches in the season. And, you know, was super proud of the guys and how resilient they were. And we kept building as the season went on and stayed together. And by the end, we were definitely playing our best tennis. You know, took out NC State at ACCs, had a really good look at beating Stanford in the semis of ACCs, and then kind of lost a heartbreaker in NCAAs, which I know we'll get into. a little bit later. But yeah, it was a really good learning season. I think we learned a ton about our team culture, our communication, and just overall like being resilient when things don't go your way. Because we had everything from norovirus to injuries to red shirts to you know, you name it, we dealt with it. So I feel like that's going to give us a lot of confidence going into this year, where we know we've dealt with some tough stuff and we can hang together as a group and push forward.
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned you had a great win against NC State, and also earlier in the season you took out the number 5 team in the country, Virginia. So what would you say helped you guys beat these really top tier teams that maybe on paper you looked like the weaker team?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think in our big wins there, especially against NC State, like our mentality came into play big time. Like we're tough as nails. The guys believed going into the match, all the way throughout the match, that we were going to get the job done, and played brave in the big moments. And in both those matches, we played to win. And I think that's something that we could have done a better job of at other points in the season. But against those particular opponents, we had a game plan. We went after it. We weren't afraid to, make execution errors here and there, because we really believed in our approach. So those were a couple great wins. It was my first time ever beating Virginia as a coach or a player. So that felt great. Virginia does a great job, and they're always kind of setting the bar. So we're really motivated to stay on them.
Yep. And had some great wins, but also there were some tough matches. You mentioned a couple close matches, which you had 4 matches that you guys lost 3-4 in the decider, including obviously the tough loss in the NTA tournament against Tennessee. So how do you
Yeah.
plan on learning from the Tennessee loss and also all the other close matches so you avoid as much as possible facing a similar situation?
Yeah, totally. Great question. Our first kind of two heartbreakers was at National Indoors in Baylor, and we played a really tough, very energetic, very close San Diego team, and lost to them 4-3, 7-5 in the third, and we had tons of chances up and down, and just didn't quite play brave enough, I think, down the stretch. But the guys put everything out there onto the court. And honestly, as a coach, like for me, I always try to look at the process, how we competed, how fit were we, how do we, did we play to win? And if we get the win, great. But after that match, I was like, guys, like, feel horrible for you. You guys deserve that win. And the challenge there is like, can you get up and compete again the next day, where we had a really tough Baylor team to play? And credit to the guys, they dusted themselves off, got right back to work again against Baylor, and we lost another heartbreaker where we were up 3-2, match flipped against us, and Baylor came up big in the big moments, and again, like, just didn't go our way, but was proud of how the guys fought. Again, think we could have played a little bit braver. And so I feel like that was good learning early in the season. And then, yeah, that Tennessee match was a real weird one. We were up 3-0, and we had chances to get that fourth point on 3 different courts. So we were looking in really good position. And, I think we probably looked at the scoreboard a little bit and was looking around at, oh, you know what, that guy's going to get the job done. That guy's going to get the job done. And you can't do that against really good teams, especially in NCAAs. And we were playing in a hostile Knoxville environment there. The crowd was going nuts. And it was a great, great match, and serious credit to Tennessee for how they fought back. But I feel like we just loosened the grip on the reins a little bit. And, that one really stung, because that was probably the biggest comeback that I've been on the other side of, either as a coach or a player. And I know next time we're in that position, we're going to cross the finish line. But yeah, that was a tough way to end it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to hear you expand a little bit more on when you say you guys wanted to play a little bit braver. What exactly would that entail in your players?
Yeah, I mean, being brave is like trusting your shots. Like, you have a midcourt ball, go and rip it. and come into the net and play to win the point on your terms rather than expecting the opponent to make an error or playing passive in the hopes that, they'll mess up. So that's generally, one of my favorite sayings is like, be disciplined, but be brave, right? Brave and disciplined. So disciplined with your targets, disciplined with your decision making, disciplined with your shot tolerance, right? Being willing to stay in the point for as long as necessary. But when you get that, green light ball, go and take it, go and rip that thing, come into the net. And yeah, I think that's something that we're definitely going to look to do a lot of next year.
Yeah, that makes sense. So switching gears a little bit, how are you feeling with about the coming season with your new roster in place now?
Yeah, I feel really, really good about it. Love the guys that we have on the team. And although we lost a lot of impact players, we've got a lot of great returners, and we've got a great freshman in Dylan Long coming in. And I feel like compared to last year, just numbers wise, we had 12 players, 12, 13 players on the team last year. This year, right now, we've got 7. So just from a developmental perspective, a lot more intimate attention, I would say, on everyone. And everyone's going to have a role and be motivated to take care of their bodies and be ready to play. And I feel like just gelling and the cohesion of the team is going to be really good this year. I feel like last year, it wasn't any fault of ours or the guys. It was just we had too many good players, and it made lineup decisions extremely difficult. And I think there is a point to where you can have too many good players. And I think last year we had that. This year we're on the other end of the spectrum where we're lean and we're mean. So guys got to check the boxes, take care of their bodies, stay healthy. And I feel like if we can do that, we're going to have a really good year.
Yeah, and you mentioned Dylan Long, the member of your new recruiting class. So, what qualities do you think he brings to the table that are really unique to him, and how do you think he'll fit into your lineup and culture next year?
Yeah. Yeah. Dylan's just an outstanding kid on and off the court. Funny enough, I was at Vanderbilt when Dylan's class was recruitable, and I recruited him really hard to Vanderbilt. And at the end, he was down to Duke and Vandy, and I was like, dude, you can't go wrong. And he ended up picking Duke, which now really happy he did because now I get to coach him. But Dylan's a standout first from his mentality. The guy's super mature. He's always thinking about ways to get better on and off the court. Very good body language, great competitor. And I think he's just got a great head on his shoulders. And for me, that's always number one when I'm evaluating talent. I look at the mentality first, and then I look at the play second, because I think you have a great mentality, the play is going to catch up and then, eclipse, versus you could spend all your life, great tennis player, but you don't have a good mentality. It's going to be really tough to get it done in the big moments. So super pumped about Dylan. And then just game style wise, he's a 6'3" lefty and massive serve, comes forward amazing. So really aggressive game style, but great athlete, moves well, and just overall just has a growth mentality. He really wants to find any way to get better. So I think he's going to fit in great to our culture. He's just a total workhorse, and I think he's going to check all the boxes and be really disciplined, and I think really come into his own in his 4 years at Duke.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it seems that there's a great reason to be optimistic about the next season. I'm super excited to watch some great Duke tennis. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Jason to talk more about TJ's recruiting process.
Yeah, for sure, TJ. So after our conversation about Dylan and the incoming class, I was curious what your process is for recruiting new players.
Yeah, great question. So the way it starts is like on June 15th of a rising juniors year, they're recruitable. So on June 15th, you'll reach out to your sort of top prospects, give them a phone call, send them a message, let them know you look forward to building the relationship and seeing them play. And then shortly thereafter, over the summer, you're on the road a bunch. So I was in Europe for 3 weeks on one trip, and then again for another week. I'm in College Park, Maryland, recruiting right now. So then you get into kind of evaluation mode for a while, where you're watching these guys play, hopefully multiple times to get as big of a sample size as possible. And then building the relationship too, which I think is super important. It's not just about the tennis. In fact, probably the most important part is the cohesion between coach and player and vice versa. Because you're going to be that person's, I'm kind of like a big brother since I'm sort of on the younger end as a college tennis coach. Try to be a mentor to them, and then hopefully have a pretty good sense of how you'd like to see their game develop over the next 4 years, really 4 to 6 years, because you're recruiting these guys as juniors. But it's international, and it's a grind. It's a lot of travel, but I absolutely love it. It's a privilege to be able to get on the road and scout such incredible talent all over the world. I think the biggest things for me is like number one, character, right? You got to be a good kid because that's so important for culture, and good kids just do well. Second is mentality. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, just being mentally tough is so important. And I feel like if you're mentally tough as a junior, you've got a leg up going into college. And then you look at the tennis, and you're trying to kind of bridge that gap of, all right, this guy's 16, maybe he just hit a growth spurt, maybe he's a little bit awkward. How do you see him developing by the time he's 18, 19, 20, 21? So it's a fun sort of calculus to play in your head. And back to the actual process, you evaluate, you get down to your short list, and then you get guys transcripts. That's obviously really important for Duke, and challenge we have versus a lot of other schools out there. Guys do need to be good students. If you're international, you do need to take a English language test. So once we check the academic box and we really are all in on a guy, we'll bring him in to campus for an official visit, and then hopefully shortly thereafter get a commitment.
Awesome. That sounds great. Brad, I'm aware you just wrote a research paper on the challenges of breaking even in pro tennis. I'm curious how you came up with that topic on breaking even, if you could go into that.
Yeah, so I learned about the financial challenges of going pro when I was an intern for the Universal Tennis Foundation this past summer, and I learned about this a scholarship they offer called the Hurd Award for a few of the top college players each year to help them offset the expenses of traveling to tournaments for the first several years on the road until they rise in the rankings, qualify for higher level tournaments, and start earning more prize money. And traveling to tournaments, as I've learned, is super expensive. It includes hotels, transportation, equipment, as well as for the lucky players, paying a coach and a physio. So most tennis pros are actually in debt for a while. In fact, only the top 200 max players are even breaking even after travel expenses. So I wrote my paper on breaking even in professional tennis for a class at my school that was an independent research class, and I was able to interview several players who are struggling to make enough prize money to cover their costs, as well as interviewing the number 203 player in the world at the time, Ethan Quinn, who was a 2024 recipient of the Hurd Award and has now risen to number 86 in the world. And more recently, I've been able to share this paper with TJ, and I felt like it's been a great opportunity to help some of the top 17, 18-year-old players that he's trying to recruit consider the financial challenges of professional tennis with a college degree, especially at a top university like Duke and on an incredible team like Duke men's tennis.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, Brad's paper is outstanding. So I encourage anyone to go and read it. He's spot on. Like tennis, it's so tough. Like people can go pro, but you're not really making any money unless you're top 200. And I think that's where actually NIL has been huge for college tennis and huge for Duke tennis. It's helped make Duke more affordable for people who can't get full scholarships, which is most of the players on our team, since we're working on 4.5 scholarships for 10 guys. And then also, like Brad said, setting them up for those guys who are pro track minded, setting them up for pro tennis, but being able to do it the right way, being able to take a coach, being able to take a physio, and being able to travel around to, places where you can have the best opportunities. So I feel like the great thing is because this information's out there, because of work like Brad's, like the top junior talent in the world is a lot more open to college now than ever versus, 3 years ago, you go on the recruiting trail and you go to a guy who's five in the world, junior, and you're like, hey, are you interested in college? And they're like, no, I'm going straight pro. Versus now, especially with all the success of guys like Ethan Quinn, who spent a year at Georgia, won NCAAs. Now he's top 100 in the world very quickly. There's that proof of concept to where you're seeing guys transition into pros from college really well. And then the last data point I'm going to give there, just to keep plugging college tennis, is so Wimbledon main draw. If you counted college tennis as a nation, there's 36 players who played in college tennis in the Wimbledon main draw. The next country with the most players is the US of A, and that was with I think 16 players in the main draw. So just seeing like internationally, nationally, a lot of success on the pro tour for guys who've gone to college.
That's awesome. And I just really want to thank you guys, both of you, for coming on WXDU today to talk about Duke men's tennis. This was awesome. Thank you.